So we want to think of reform in terms of what type of solutions are we looking for. Now, if you're looking for a quick Band-Aid, a quick solution, nothing wrong with that. Term limits, something like that. Okay. But if you're thinking, okay, that's what we'll do for now, but I want to put some effort, maybe just a very small fraction of your life, 1/10,000th of your life, let's say. You want to spend thinking about how, or as a society, we spend that much effort. How do we solve these systemic issues we're having? What is the right way to do to restructure everything? And that's when you should think 1,000 years from now, what do we want to be doing? Because that answers all those problems that you're having with that. Um, a lot of people think, how will it affect you? No. How will we change over to that? No, that's not what you think. At first, you want to know, where are we going to go? Where are we ending up? If you're just driving to, 200 yards down the road because you see an Exxon and you want to get to that Exxon, that's not necessarily the direction you want to be going overall, right? But we often confuse those things. So you want to think 1,000 years from now, where do I want to end up? Recognize that that means you're looking at how would a society operate if it was that way, and you think under those circumstances. You don't think, how do I get there? Your destination is where you need to be. You don't think, I'm going to choose a destination based on how I'm going to get there. No, you got to go to work. I mean, you have a destination for a reason. We want to go somewhere with our life, with our society. Where are we going with this? You want to look 1,000 years from now. So there's solutions that are good, right? There's temporaries. But you want to look 1,000 years down the road and know that's where we want to end up. We're aiming for that. So that whatever you do, even if you go back away from that, we're actually going to end up doing it that way. And so then when people start realizing that is where we're going to end up, in other words, like, let's say Celsius, right? That's an easy one. If anyone thinks about it, they realize, oh, yeah, we should do Celsius. But I don't want to change over to Celsius. So they don't. They say, okay, I'm going to use Fahrenheit because the United States, we use Fahrenheit. You think about it and you realize, yeah, obviously, the freezing point of water, the freezing and boiling point of water is far more of an appropriate system than the freezing point of a solution of ammonia chloride, which is what Fahrenheit's based on. So once you think about it, you're pretty much going to come to that conclusion that eventually you do want to be on Celsius. You want to be on something that the whole world's on, and you want to be on something that makes more sense and it's easier to use. But you still use Fahrenheit. So it's understanding that one day we're going to be Celsius. And that is a different approach than what we have, which is no one even considering that we're going to go to Celsius. So if you're not thinking about it, we'll never go to Celsius. We will always be this ridiculous anomaly that doesn't make sense, and it just lags and slows us down, and it's no big deal. I mean, we'll survive. It can't be more than a few dozen people that die from it, and then, a few thousand people truly, genuinely suffering. But my point is the agony, that momentary agony for millions and millions of people multiple times in their life, unnecessarily. For me, that's what it's all about. If a few people die, I'm not really concerned about that as much as that permanent, constant agony. It's not permanent. It would be occasional, but random agony for no reason, that's not my style. That's not what I want out of society. So if we then understand we're going to move to Celsius, that means we're going to... So if someone says, I think we should have, in the United States, Celsius 1,000 years from now. If you're hearing that and you are a Fahrenheit, you're not aware of anything, you're like, okay, that sounds like a crazy idea. Who cares, right? You can do anything you want 1,000 years from now. I'll be dead. And that's the key concept here. That people that don't want change are not going to be engaged in opposing you. Because if you said, we're going to have Celsius in 1 year, next year we're going to have Celsius, anyone hearing that, I would even hearing that say, no, whoa, hold on. We need to stop this guy. And so that's what happens. People say, no, we want, reform now. And so another problem with reform now, with utopia now, which is essentially what people who call themselves progressives, they use that term. They don't use the term utopia now, but that's what they're doing. They're demanding utopia now. And they haven't thought it through and all that. Like, this is the answer. This is how you do things. If you want actual progress in the world, this is how you do it. You don't force anything down anybody's throat. You develop a opposition to it, even from people who don't even want to oppose it. They just don't want you to have power, seizing power for something you haven't really put thought into, or they haven't put thought into. Maybe you do have the answer to the universe. Maybe you're going to fix everything. Like one-to-one representation would actually fix everything. But I wouldn't just go, we're going to shove it down everyone's throat in 3 years, T-minus 2 years and 282 days, and do a countdown every day. I mean, I'm asking for enemies. Like, what are you talking about? No, I don't know what this is. I haven't studied this. No, you say 1,000 years from now, and then you get people on board. They get it. They're relaxed. Oh, yeah, that does make sense. And then they start, and also there are people that don't think 1,000 years from now, right? There are people who have had their breakfast this morning, in other words. So these people need help. And so that's another little structure of saying, I'm planning something 1,000 years from now. It implies to that person who can't think of hypotheticals, like, oh, 1,000 years from now, we will be here, and what will happen? Just that, the reality that, oh yeah, my children will keep reproducing, and we will be humans in 1,000 years. There will still be humans here. So, there is a reality that we can affect starting now, and it's so easy. And if you genuinely wanted 1,000 years from now, it would be extremely easy, obviously. But the reality of this is, what would happen is you have an idea, it catches on because people are not threatened by it. You're saying 1,000 years from now, 1,000 years from now, don't worry about it. Once you reach critical mass, no one rings a bell or anything because no one knows it. It just happens. People say, wait a minute, if we all agree to this, let's do it. And then they start to say, oh, you mean people have tried this and that, and we've tried starting these little kind of organizations to do these things or whatever? It just happens. Things are done for you. So there's a critical mass. Once you've achieved critical mass, 2 generations after that, the fruition is there. And then it's a matter of implementing that to whatever degree. That could be hard and fast, like instantaneously. It could be like a gay marriage thing, like all of a sudden, boom, just across the land, there's whatever is, if it's just some switch that needs to be flipped, like allowing something to be legal right where it was not legal before. But if it's creating an institution, that's going to take time, but it's in full swing in 2 generations. So when you have an idea, present it in a 1,000-year plan. When you think 1,000 years from now, or recognize what is a 1,000-year plan and a right now plan. Right now, we could do term limits. We could just do that right now. But that's not fixing the problem. 1,000 years from now, if you think of that, you're going to realize, wait a minute, we need to think about from scratch. And so that's when we need to get into reality-based problem solving.